welcome to QI, where tonight's show is completely and utterly incomprehensible. Venturing into the unknown with me tonight are... what's his name? And... oh, you know... and... oh, wait, no, don't tell me. Finally, no, I've never seen him before in my life. Now, our buzzers tonight are no less perplexing than our questions. Sue goes...
Who did it, Dada?
11 types of wrong just there.
Brian goes... Ross goes... Alan goes...
Plasma.
Bose-Einstein. Spreading really up your square mile. Dirty old bag.
Wow.
Is that your internal dialogue?
I think so. How they got that?
Now, don't forget, in this series, we have the Nobody Knows Joker.
Nobody knows.
There are some questions to which no one knows the answer, and if you think the question I ask has no known authoritative answer, then play your Nobody Knows Joker and you'll get extra points. Now, let's start with something that's not even in the same language. Listen to this and tell me what it means. That's a rodent. It's a rodent, good. Can you narrow it down?
Is that the squeaky door to his little rodent house?
No.
He's asking for some oil.
The astonishing thing is we do know what that means, in fact.
I can vouch for this. There are people who study this. My director on one of my documentaries got a PhD from Oxford studying frog communication. And he sat there for 3 years.
Professor of French. Yeah. Hey, no, stop it. Sorry.
He sat there for 3 years in the outback somewhere in Australia, and he discerned about 3 words, which I think were...
Rivet.
But you are absolutely right, Brian. Of course, there are zoologists who spend their life trying to understand communications of various species. Do you know what this species is?
The gopher.
It is a gopher, a prairie dog.
Prairie dog, sorry.
A prairie dog. Yeah. It's also known as a ground squirrel. It's a type of squirrel.
Isn't ground squirrel a condiment?
A little ground squirrel.
I'll tell you what, he's only making that face because he's got Philip Schofield's hand up his bum.
Oh, that takes me back a bit.
Is that what the squeaking noise, is it?
No, when I say that takes me back, I don't mean there was a time it's all gone wrong. Anyway, there is a scientist, Professor Kon Slobodchikov of Northern Arizona University, who spent 30 years studying the language of these prairie dogs.
Do they warn one another of predators?
Yes, and
one of the words?
He's used computer analysis, and they're able to distinguish between different types of predator. Humans, badgers, various other animals. Not only that, different geometric shapes, right? And
they have a different sound.
Different coloured shirts that humans are wearing. And the noise we heard...
Human!
The noise we heard in Prairie Dog was, there is a human approaching wearing a yellow shirt. I know that sounds almost inconceivable.
It is.
But what's interesting is they can't distinguish between different genders of human, but they can in different height. So if a tall human approaches in a yellow shirt, the leader who's on the lookout will make a series of squeaks. And under computer analysis, you can differentiate between a tall human approaching in a red shirt and a short human in a red shirt.
How wide is
and
their
a tall
colour palette?
human in a yellow shirt and a short one, and so on.
Apparently, if a transvestite in tartan approaches, they explode.
Yes. Here's a similar clip, but translated into English.
Alan! 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 Al! Alan! 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 Alan!
Oh, it's not Alan. That's Steve.
Steve! 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 Steve!
Steve!
Watch that forever, can't we? I don't know. Great story. Now it's time for some interplanetary incomprehension. What did the Pope's librarian say when he first saw the rings around the planet Saturn?
They initially thought the planet had ears.
Ah, yes.
That was Galileo. I mean, I don't think he actually thought it had ears, because Galileo was a genius.
No, he thought like a jug. Ears in the sense of a jug ears, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, that's Galileo, who was sensible.
They are
I'm
remarkable.
talking about the librarian of the Pope.
Do you know...
He genuinely believed that it was possible that after Christ's ascension into heaven, the rings of Saturn were where he put his foreskin.
Ah, yes.
Now, you may think, oh, I'm trying to mock the church. This is all nonsense. But Christ, of course, was a Jewish boy, and like all Jewish boys, on the 8th day of his birth, he was circumcised.
50,000 miles across.
They
Imagine
didn't
the size.
They weren't aware of that.
I need a peg to hang this massive foreskin on.
I've got respect for Jesus.
That's some girl.
His name was Leo Alatius, and his essay was called De Praeputio Domini Nostri Jesu Christi Diatriba, a diatribe, a discussion concerning the prepuce, foreskin, of our Lord Jesus Christ.
This is how to interest teenagers in astronomy. this is a great I've been missing.
Is it out there as a relic?
Well, like all the relics, there are 18 places who claim to have the one true holy foreskin.
Oh, they really?
Christ, yes. Catherine of Siena was one of the weirder of the saints. She believed that Christ gave her his foreskin as a wedding ring in their mystical marriage.
What a gift.
After her death, her hand was cut off and became a relic with its invisible foreskin on it as a ring. She was an extreme anorexic, a peculiar woman. She also actively sought out degrading experiences. She once drank a cupful of cancerous pus from a woman who had abused her. So naturally...
Has she appeared on Mock the Week?
But now, more importantly, more significantly, how were the rings around Saturn actually formed?
I'm going to play the card there.
You are right. You're a true scientist. The fact is, nobody does really know, do they? There are two sort of major... Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
I didn't copy, I wasn't copying.
Yeah. There's a Socratic acceptance of the limits of one's own knowledge, and there's ignorance. I'm not saying which is which. No, quite right. There are two major theories. I think there are two major theories. Is that
It's
right?
thought there could be a moon that,
Yes.
that was either disrupted, so something hit it and fragmented it. Although they are almost pure water ice, which, come to think of it now, sat here, makes the moon theory a bit unlikely, doesn't it? Because moons are made of rock. So the
other theory would be
one.
that it would be something to do with the formation of the planet itself, that something spun off it in some way and then achieved a stable orbit around and then formed these...
God
and
spilled
they
his
don't
drink.
coalesce together. They're held, the structures are held by the other moons. There are over 60 moons of Saturn.
Are they part of the rings or entirely separate from the rings?
Some of them are inside small moons called shepherd moons, which go around and you get rings in between those moons. And then it's got moons outside the rings, which affect the structure of the rings. So they orbit outside and affect it.
Quite
so it's
big
a very
moons?
complex...
Life-carrying moons?
structure. Well, there's a moon called Enceladus, which is about as big as Britain. It's a very small moon. But it has fountains of ice rising up out of the surface. And it's thought that means that there may well be liquid water beneath the surface, so pockets of liquid water. Everywhere on Earth that you find water, you find life.
Of all these moons, like, this is the one thing I wanted to ask you. Of all these moons, which one's most likely to be the home to Ewoks?
Would be Titan.
Titan,
Has got a thicker atmosphere than the Earth. So you'd need to be furry.
Good answer! We just have to destroy the one that has Jar Jar Binks on it, though. That's
Very important when you're learning and studying to know which notes to take, not just to take any of them.
Exactly, I saw that. Intelligence at work. Now, while we're up in space, how do you imagine spacemen follow penguins about? Why would they want to? How would they do it?
To track, well, I suppose to track colonies.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And they used to try and use little bands around their flippers, but they found that actually, unfortunately, there was a 44% increase in mortality amongst penguins that had these things attached. So they thought, we've got to find a way of observing penguin populations, and they found they could do it through space. But what's interesting is it's the activity of the penguin that is most revealing is...
How is it they're dropping?
It's how they poo. They poo a German scientist... from Bremen.
Straight up.
Into the atmosphere.
No, quite reverse. They wanted out the way. He discovered they squeeze 4 times harder than a human.
They fire it.
Well, yeah, they do.
It's a bit like toothpaste, and when you get lots of them together, they spell out, piss off, spacemen.
They do. It's a streak. They leave a streak of feces behind.
So a spatter gun
Yeah.
of guano that's visible from...
Like that.
Oh, no, don't tell me it's sat in the middle of it.
Well, no, it's not. That's the point. It squirted it out. 30 centimetres away from its body it goes.
Somebody took that photo.
But they've still got to walk through it. Surely they should just squirt it out the side.
Bent over.
So they can walk.
That's like painting yourself into a corner, really.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Well, actually, that just looks like somebody just... It just looks like somebody's just run over that one in a Land Rover.
Someone's in a up in space, looking down for emperor penguin poo.
No, they're looking for how they're flocking together, how they're living, and through an examination of their faeces, which are very clearly visible because of the trails and the streaks they leave behind and the colours of them, they're able to predict population rises and falls. And I think it's rather wonderful. I think it's a fantastic way of being able to observe animals without interfering with them, without them even knowing they're being watched, and being able to gauge their diets and the health of their system. Now then, still in space, what's the main use for the second commonest gas in the universe?
Oh, second commonest.
Yes. What might be the second most abundant gas in the universe?
Hydrogen. Is it
hydrogen? I think is the most common. I believe is the most abundant in the universe. It also
Nitrogen.
no.
Helium.
Is it argon?
Helium is the right answer.
Helium filling balloons! I was going to say
Squeaky
filling
voices,
balloons!
Squeaky voices.
Ah, filling balloons is not the reason.
Squeaky voices,
No.
squeaky voices,
Now.
squeaky voices.
Yeah. No. The reason is what? Yeah. The question is. The point is there is a shortage on Earth, not in the universe, of helium. The demand for it has gone up in the last 10, 15 years, and it's
Because balloons are getting bigger.
Yeah.
not because party entertainment has become a bigger thing. It is actually for something else.
I mean, we use it for refrigeration.
Refrigeration, and there's a diagnostic device, an extremely expensive but highly effective diagnostic device that needs cooling.
Or the MRI.
MRI is the right answer. The superconducting, the coils of these.
And they have to be that heavy, otherwise they just float off.
That's it.
Nightmare.
But they came from particle physics technology, which is one of the interesting things,
yeah.
because you often get criticised because exploring the universe is not seen as a useful thing to do for some reason in our society. But actually, the offshoots are completely unpredictable, and one of the offshoots of exploring particle physics, the world of the atoms, quantum mechanics, was the MRI scanner. And in fact, we use helium to cool down the LHC. So
do you?
So the Large Hadron Collider is 27 kilometres in circumference.
What
It
was
operates-
unfortunately misprinted as the Large Hard-On Collider.
My spell checker does that. Large Hadron Collider.
Colluded in a Large Hard-On.
Yeah, but it runs.
Yeah.
It runs at minus 271 degrees, so 1.9 degrees above absolute zero.
Wow.
And that's because you need these magnets, the superconducting magnets that you mentioned, that are in
Yes.
MRI scanners. So they're magnets that are made of wire that have no electrical resistance. So you
Yes.
can put a big current through it and have a massive magnetic field. But the helium is the only substance that is liquid at those temperatures.
Our information is, and I don't know what you guys at CERN have, is that it is perfectly possible that on Earth we will run out of helium by 2035, which is not that far
How are we
away.
going to make funny voices then?
Exactly.
And with the collider there, with all those magnets in a circle underground, on the hills and everything, with those Swiss cowbells on the cows, when you turn it on, do they all run in a big circle? getting dragged
They've got
around.
99.999999% the speed of light around the... So they go around 27 kilometres 11,000 times a second, and the cows would weigh, if we did that, 7,000 times more than they do when they're stood
brain.
still.
This is no stuff like it's giving me an erection.
What, the
as I
LH6?
speak.
Become a large hard-on gallooner.
So exactly.
That's it. Exploration.
Isn't
That's
it?
the
It
value
really
of
is.
exploration.
And it's exploration at the smallest level, at a human level, and at a cosmic level, and at a minute particle level. That's the beauty of it. It's the range and... Oh, gosh, anyway, I must beat it down and we must carry on. So, I'm glad you're all excited, because it is good. Now, this sounds very existential. When is the present?
Oh, I'm not going to fall into that trap. Who's going to say it?
Well, it's not really a trap. It is a genuinely interesting question. I mean, there are different ways of trying to describe what the present might be, but let's talk about the present in terms of archaeology.
Why are there acorns on the sign? Is that connected?
I don't know.
It's the squirrels. It's the sign for squirrels.
Acorns in the future.
Yeah, acorns.
Acorns in the
Did you not
past.
know that squirrels have the capacity to time travel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the only ones who can do that.
Yeah, exactly, but they keep it very quiet because the nuts are better in the past.
Archaeologists actually have an acronym, BP, which means before present, and they can date the present. It's an exact date, January the 1st, 1950.
That's the present.
That, for archaeologists, and there's a very good reason for this, and you might be able to work it out.
we're
If you
born in the
did,
future.
I'd be very impressed.
Is it plastics?
Not quite that.
Bakelite?
When archaeologists...
Is it-
No, archaeologists are interested in the distant past. And recently, in the last 100 or so years, certain techniques have enabled us to discover... I say us, I mean... clever people.
Carbon dating.
Carbon dating has allowed us to discover how old things are. Now, in the 1950s... Basically, they decided by January the 1st, 1950, we had so screwed up the atmosphere with nuclear testing that no carbon dating could be trusted after January the 1st, 1950. So that is known as the present.
See, these archaeologists need to learn a bit of physics, though. According to Einstein's theory of space and time,
Yes.
which is our best theory of space and time, there's no such thing as a present moment which spans the universe, or indeed even the Earth, or in fact even two people moving relative to each other.
It is absurd to think of an event that might be happening now in a galaxy and me doing this as being simultaneous. That
Yeah.
has no meaning
You know,
cosmically, does
Because
it?
you can swap the order of them,
Yes.
as long as they're not causally connected. So as long as, you know, if I throw a glass... Right. If I was to throw a glass over there and it smashes on the ground,
Yeah.
then obviously I caused it to smash by throwing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can't have the smash before I throw it.
No. Yeah.
However, if you look, let's say the sun and the Earth,
Yes.
say, and the sun is 8 light minutes away. So if the sun exploded now, then we wouldn't notice for 8 minutes. So for 8 minutes, anything that I do here, I talk, and 4 minutes later I'm still talking, and yes, and everyone... But, so you can swap the order of those things around until the point at which they become causally connected. So in that case, until the explosion destroys the Earth.
And at a quantum level, time can appear to go forwards and backwards and follow exact rules in whichever way it's going, doesn't it?
Richard Feynman had a theory, which was a legitimate theory, that there's only one electron in the universe. So we're all made of electrons.
Slowly. We are all made of what?
Electrons.
This is good.
How do you spell electron?
The sun
Yeah.
has
An
exploded.
English degree.
We have 8 minutes to live.
Is it a wine glass or more of a tumbler?
I want to
So it's
hear-
electron.
I want
So
to hear
Richard
this theory,
Feynman, a great
yeah.
physicist, got a Nobel Prize, he said that, see, all electrons are exactly the same. So he said, well, I think perhaps there's only one in the universe, and it keeps moving backwards and forwards through time, and every time it crosses now, this kind of sheet that we call now, then you see an electron. So there's only one electron. So all the electrons in my hand, the billions and billions of them, are the same as the electrons in your hand, and it's just one of them, wandering backwards and forwards in time. And that was a legitimate view.
I've got a feeling that when you're late for a meeting, you're an absolute nightmare. you were meant to be here 8 minutes ago. Well, actually, first to throw a glass. Oh, God. He's doing it again.
A man called Arthur Eddington came up with a phrase that has often been used to describe this nature of time as we perceive it, which is time's arrow. We think of it as going in that direction. And there are limitations to that, is really what you're saying, as a theory.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how time works at a very fundamental level, actually.
But time's arrow, I mean, I actually got my head around that a bit.
Yeah.
Because you don't need maths. If you think that everything's going forward and as it does, it decays.
Yes.
So then you understand entropy.
Yes.
I just look, for instance, all you need is an analogy to make that's pertinent to you. So in my case, all relationships. And then you realise, of course, you have that perfect 18 months, and then they're dead.
The second law of sexual dynamics.
Yeah, that's how I, according to me, that's how I extrapolate.
To make it statistically significant, though, you have to have an awful lot of relationships.
Oh, I do. I really do. And they really do
That's
all
very
suffer
well
from the law of entropy.
Now, who fancies an ingenious interlude? I have some exciting props that I'm really thrilled about. I love doing this. Here, candles. See? Candles. I'm going to light these candles here. Red, white and blue.
Is that from the IKEA Black Mass kit?
Right.
Is this the point where we all have to knee down and pray to Jesus' foreskin?
No, I promise you. I'm going to extinguish these candles, right? I have a jug here. And I'm going to extinguish them using an invisible gas. Not by liquid, using an invisible gas. I just want you to tell me... I'm going to let Brian off, because he will know this to him is like so book one, page one of Boy's Wonder Book of Science. But that's the level I'm at, I'm afraid. I'm going to put this powder in first.
Do we know what the powder is?
And I put in this liquid.
Custard.
It's not custard.
Oh,
there we go.
yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to cover it up here. Now watch. OK, I'm not going to pour the liquid onto... I'm just going to pour the gas onto here. And out go the candles.
Oh, I like that.
I've got a feeling...
Do another one. Do something else.
I should be presenting the Royal Institution Christmas lectures, shouldn't I? So can one of you, who isn't a professor at Manchester and a fellow of the Royal Society, tell me what was going on there?
Is it magic?
It's not...
I think it's carbon dioxide.
Yes, I took sodium bicarbonate, a very common, household thing you might use either for indigestion or for cleaning purposes, and vinegar. And I put them together, and they precipitated CO2, which is...
Heavier than air.
Heavier than air, and simply pouring it there just snuffed out the candles.
I've never seen anyone pour a gas before.
I know, you don't think of gas as being a pourable thing, but so anyway, I can't tell you how relieved I am that it worked. Thank you. Anyway, well done, everybody, especially me. Thank you.
Have you ever tempted to carry liquid nitrogen in a lift? Which actually in physics
liquid nitrogen
departments
is
you
very,
often
very, very, very cold, isn't it?
It is cold, but they don't let you carry it in lifts, because if you spill it, then you get nitrogen gas, and that's heavier than air, and it pushes all the oxygen to the top of the lift.
Oh,
so
people
that's why they
suffocate?
don't. Yes, even though it's nitrogen, which the air is made
Oh, well,
you need the mixture.
Every Al-Qaeda cell watching this.
Can you imagine them running around with
tower
those
block?
big
We're
dewars of
having it.
nitrogen?
I remember a chemistry lesson at school, and it still, to me, was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. This chemistry master came in, someone had prepared in the, some liquid nitrogen. We didn't quite know what it was. And he came with this beautiful rose he'd just picked from the garden. And he just dipped the rose in like that for a second, and then smashed it on the table, and it shattered like glass into 1,000 pieces. Which you may say, oh, how destructive, and yet it was somehow staggeringly beautiful. The idea that you could alter the state of something at such speed that it could suddenly become, from being the softest, most malleable thing. Isn't that lovely? Don't you think that's gorgeous?
Beautiful.
Yeah,
It is.
we just
I think you're humouring me.
No.
You want me to go back to foreskins?
No, I think it's a hilarious Valentine's Day prank. There you go. It's not for you!
Can you imagine the surface of Saturn's moon Titan? That's so cold that it's got
Oh, hang on, I
liquid
know
methane.
Titan.
Liquid
Titan's
methane.
the one where the Ewoks live.
Titan, yes.
Yay! Go on.
You see?
That's okay.
So, hang on, I've got it. So basically, you're saying you can shatter an Ewok?
Yes, because it's got lakes of liquid methane.
Wow.
Because it's so cold.
Oh,
and
really?
the methane behaves exactly like water on Earth. So you get rain, methane rain, you get methane snow, methane ice, and lakes of methane. There's a lake there which is as large as Lake Superior.
Of methane, which is essentially a fart, liquid fart.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want to go there. Strike it off.
You know what? If I could stand on a planet and throw an Ewok into a lake of fart, that'd just be... that'd be like...
Smash it into a
But you
fart.
couldn't, because it'd shatter. So you wouldn't...
So, right. So I could be tossing Ewoks into a lake of fart.
That's your heaven. Everyone has their own heaven. That's
That
yours.
is... Oh.
When you say tossing Ewoks into a lake of fart...
Steady.
No, that's exactly what I meant. You know what? After this show finishes, I'm off. I don't care. You'll never see me again. Where is he? He's off tossing Ewoks again. Into his lake of
may
fart
well
on
be.
on a pedalo made of smoke.
Is liquid methane flammable in the same way that methane gas?
No, this could be one of the great questions on this show. No, but why? On Titan.
Yes. Why not? Do say.
Because the lakes would all
Is there
just...
no oxygen? Or... Ah, because
Yeah,
there's no oxygen.
no oxygen.
There's no
so-
oxygen.
So just fart.
So if there was oxygen,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it would be.
All you're thinking of is things to do in the
Has that ruined it? That's ruined it. It's not the image of him tossing an Ewok. So you don't want to go there because you can't light your fire.
The great Sidney Smith said heaven was eating foie gras to the sound of trumpets. You have redefined it as tossing Ewoks on lakes of
It's not
methane.
things to do in heaven, it's just things to do on Titan.
All right, Titan. Exactly.
That's in the guidebook. Things to do in Titan.
The top 10 in the front of the guide.
If you only have access to a Wookiee, you will need a bigger lake. That's just basic science. I can tell you that.
Test now of your nautical knowledge. What variety of lettuce did they serve on board the Titanic?
Iceberg.
Well, bless you for...
I took one for the team, as it were.
You did take one for the team, no. The iceberg lettuce had been developed in Pennsylvania, but it was not available in Europe until many, many years later.
Rosso,
the answer is we don't know. We do know there were 700 heads of lettuce on board.
Make them sound like heads of state.
I know, doesn't
The
it?
most grand of all the lettuce, the head of lettuce.
How did they only have 700 lettuce? Because how many people were on
I don't
the
know,
Titanic?
maybe either they'd already eaten that much and that's how much was saved, or they just didn't order that. Maybe,
They saved the lettuce, but not the people. 1,500 people died on that ship.
Sorry.
Get the lettuce for crying out loud.
I misread my card. It was, hold the front page, 7,000 heads of lettuce.
One of the bloody things sank then. It was full of lettuce. Before they even started.
Lettuces float.
But
Well,
there
why
are...
did it sink then? What is wrong with these people?
Where do you think the most valuable icebergs are?
Valuable?
Valuable.
You mean lettuce icebergs or icebergs?
Icebergs. Not necessarily on Earth, but in our solar system. Oh. I'm thinking of Neptune or Uranus. No. It's thought that the crushing pressure might create oceans of liquid diamond filled with solid diamond icebergs. I don't know who thinks this.
Mariah Carey. She was the one that thought of that. How heavy are they? I'll be there.
Does it seem to you to have any value, or is it...
Yeah, well, yes, it could in principle.
There is a lot of
You need
pressure
to
there,
do
so
huge pressures deep down.
Yeah. Now, you're on the bridge of the Titanic, all right? You see that iceberg up ahead. It's slightly to your right. What order do you give the helmsman if you want him to turn sharply left?
I think that's port.
It's port. Left is port.
Oh, no!
Yeah. The odd thing is, right up until 1933, you gave the opposite command, because a wheel like that is only one form of steering a ship. There were tillers. And if you wanted to turn left, you would push the tiller right. You're pushing it to starboard.
Much
you're
the same as when you're on a peddler.
Yes, exactly. So because there were at least 5 different forms of steering on different kinds of ship, it was customary to say, if you wanted to go hard port, you'd shout, hard starboard, and they would go left.
But on a jet ski, you turn left and right. So they must have rudders that go opposition.
Yeah, but they have a jet, don't they? Not a rudder. It's a jet
What,
ski.
the
I've got a rudder ski.
is that how it turns, though? That the pressure...
jet.
The jet moves?
I think the jet moves.
Does
on
it?
I think so. Yeah.
Brian, do you know? So far you've known
They
everything.
don't have a rudder, do they? Have you ever seen a jet ski with a rudder?
I don't think they have rudders, no.
No.
So I think in
They
that
have a
case...
jet.
They have a jet.
Yes.
It's a jet ski! What are we not to get in? We have a jet... Sorry.
All right. I'd like you to fill in the gaps in these slogans for various places or institutions. We start with County Donegal's slogan, OK? Up here, it's...
Windy.
Green.
It really is windy there.
different.
Different, it's different.
Up here, it's different. That's Donegal's slogan. You're pleased to know. Northumbria Police, however, total...
Total arrest.
total policing, I'm
Total
sorry to say.
Brutality.
Total
trunk.
policing.
Total policing.
Welcome to Northamptonshire. Let yourself...
Down.
Leave.
Let yourself out.
Poor Northamptonshire. Charming place. Let yourself...
Breathe.
Relax.
Breathe is good, relax is
Let yourself free.
Go is
Go.
not bad. Grow,
Let yourself
apparently.
grow.
Grow.
yourself
That is
grow.
disgusting.
Let yourself go.
Let yourself go.
Self-esteem.
The large hard
Yes. This is an optimistic one here. Welcome to Tower Hamlets. Let's make it...
Asbo week.
Out alive.
Let's make it out alive. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it
There's
happen.
no H on happen
Well,
there.
let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
And then there was another slogan that said, it did happen on Friday the 17th.
Yes.
If you witnessed it...
Oh, dear. In 2007, the Scottish Parliament and the Tourist Board Scotland spent £125,000 on launching a new slogan. And I want you to find the word they came up with. They paid some very expensive people. Welcome to...
The heart attack capital of Europe.
It's got to be Scotland.
Welcome to...
Scotland.
Scotland.
Scotland is the right answer. What genius! I mean, God, that was the very best one I've ever seen. Because all American states, of course, have their mottos as well. And Kentucky decided they'd spend money on a new phrase for Kentucky. Now, there are 2 things, basically, that most Americans know Kentucky for. Horse racing, Kentucky
Fried
Derby. No, they don't really know for that. But Kentucky...
finger-licking good,
the Kentucky Derby is one, and the other is bourbon whiskey. And they came up with a 2-word phrase that embraced both racing and whiskey. And I just think it is genuinely
Drunk
genius.
horses.
And, no, every time you cross the state line, you see it, and you think, actually, they were worth their money. It just says, unbridled spirit. That is a bit cool. I think that's very good. I think that's class.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not finger-licking good, though, is it?
No, it isn't. Though I would have you know, and one doesn't like to boast, and I'm just going to anyway, but I am actually Kentucky Colonel. The governor appoints certain people to be Kentucky colonels. And in theory, I could be called up in defence of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, as it calls itself. I know. It's unlikely to happen. It's so... Well,
No bothering blast, I
I shall throw a family thrift bucket at them. I did this documentary where I visited all the states of America, and of course they'll always go, which is your favourite state? And it's very, very hard to answer. But as it happened, about the best time I had, about 5 days, was in Kentucky. I thought, well, I'll stick to that as my answer. So I said Kentucky, and about 3 months later, I got a letter from the governor of Kentucky with a certificate, and of course with a baseball cap and various other objects, saying that I had been made a colonel in the Army of Kentucky. So there you are. You shall call me Colonel Fry from now on.
I have the key to the city of Port Pirie in
Do you?
Australia. Yeah,
Wonderful.
I was doing a gig and I was talking to a bloke. Turned out he was the mayor. So I went, can I have the key to the city? And he went, yeah, all right then. And, so I said, all right then, well, I didn't want him to back out. I said, where's your offices? On the high street. I'll be down there tomorrow. So I turned up, right? He got a shed key and a ribbon and went, there you go.
So there wasn't much Latin spoken or anything like that?
No, there wasn't a ceremony. I just turned up to the office.
Didn't even put it on a cushion?
It was just a shed key in a bag.
You'll like this story about driving in America. I got a sat-nav and we drove from Atlantic City and the car hire place was just off Lexington Avenue in Manhattan. So I put Lexington Avenue in the sat-nav and it took me to Lexington Avenue on Staten Island.
Oh, no.
After about an hour, I was thinking, this isn't feeling quite right. And then it took me down a kind of residential street off the freeway. And then it just said, you have reached your destination. No, that's someone's house. I was expecting, you know, yellow cabs and skyscrapers.
I've just done voice for them, so that if you have TomTom or Garmin...
You drive along, and it goes, turn left. Now, the interesting thing...
No, do be...
The most dust thing, you would not believe it, but...
Did you do it as if you were talking to me? That's the worry. Left, you moron!
If you take a wrong turn, instead of going make a U-turn, does the hooter come on?
I put my voice on Katie's. When she drives, it's me.
Oh, well, that's nice, because you can put your own voice on.
But you can do it, yeah, you can record it. Left, 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 left! Which is funny the first couple of times.
Yes, that's the problem.
I had a sat-nav, and after Port Pirie, and the Nullarbor plane in Australia, the big, long...
Between Adelaide and Perth.
Yeah, the longest straight road in the world. Yeah. And I saw my bike, turned it on, and it said, drive forward for 2 days. For the rest of it, and it went, then turn left. But the stupid thing was, it was such a long road, I missed the left-hand turn.
You know that sat-nav uses relativity? Do you know that?
Oh, no, tell us.
I do know this.
Tell. No, tell.
Is this right? Because of the gravitational pull, I do know that up in space, if they weren't regulated, it would be a year out. Is that the thing?
It'd be 38,000 nanoseconds per day. The reason I say it like that is because the rule of thumb, which is light travels almost precisely 1 foot in 1 nanosecond. So a foot is 1 light nanosecond. Right. So 38,000 nanoseconds a day is 38,000 feet a day. So that's how much it'd drift if you didn't take account of the fact that time passes
because
at a
of the
different
gravitational
rate.
field. So the point is that the maths built into the processors in these geostationary satellites has to take into account Einsteinian physics.
Yes. And I was told that I visited the GPS headquarters. It's in Colorado.
I bet that's easy to find.
We did, and actually, this is honestly true. We typed it into the sat-nav and it took us into a field. It didn't take us there. But, yeah, when they launched it, the US Air Force were very suspicious of this, you know, Swiss bloke and his relativity nonsense, and had the option of not correcting because they could not believe that time passes a different rate in orbit than it does on the ground.
So if you took a sat-nav, like a normal domestic sat-nav, right, and put it in a space rocket and went up into space towards the satellite, what would happen?
It's very good. That is exactly the kind of thought experiment that Einstein liked to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd meet an Einstein like that.
Anyway, listen, we could go on like this forever, but we're simply not going to. So we stumble now into the gaping maw of general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, quick as you can. What's the definition of a galaxy?
I'm going to make a...
Yes! Nobody knows. You're right. Essentially, there is no absolutely official decision, but there are scientists trying to work out precisely what a galaxy might be. It's Duncan Forbes of Swinburne University in Australia and Pavel Krupa at the University of Bonn in Germany. And they've launched an online survey, and we have been allowed at QI to be the first people to see the results of the poll so far. But based on that, there is already one new galaxy that forms a globular cluster, Omega Centauri. Seems to qualify, according to those criteria, as a galaxy.
In that image, the Hubble Deep Field image, this year the most distant galaxy ever discovered was found in that photograph, and it's 13.2 billion light years away. If you think, I mean, the Earth's been here for, what, 5 billion years? So for most of the journey of the light, from those galaxies you can see in that image, the Earth wasn't even here. It wasn't formed. It formed after, when they were almost halfway.
The further away you look, the further towards the birth of the universe you're looking.
Yeah.
But how do we know which direction to look? Did it begin over there, or did it begin over there?
Oh.
Or are we on the surface of a balloon? I mean, is it...
No, it began here. So the Big Bang happened here and every point in space. Because the picture is that space and time began at that point, and it's been stretching ever since. So all of space and all of time, in some sense, were there at the Big Bang. So the Big Bang happened everywhere. So there's no centre.
So you can look back in any direction.
You can't really see it, because black's are very slim in colour.
It's true. I just think it's all beautiful and wonderful and amazing. So, name an insect that spins a web.
Tate.
Yes, Sue.
Spiders.
It's an arachnid.
It's an arachnid, Susan.
What's the difference?
It's got such a legs and a trunk body. It's got
have how many legs?
6. 2, 4, 6, 8. That's got...
And spiders have 8.
Yeah.
And insects have 6. So I was particularly an insect that spins a web I was after.
The difference is the pedantry of biologists.
It is, you're right.
Is there a 6-legged spider?
There is no 6-legged spider, as far as I know.
Does a moth spin?
Yes. There's a very famous moth whose larva is responsible for this tie, certainly.
A silkworm.
The bombyx, the silkworm, is the larva of a moth. But it's not really a web. But there are insects that spin webs. These are cocoon-type things for them to pupate inside. Goats also. Now, goats obviously aren't insects, but this does sound really like science fiction of the worst possible kind.
Spin?
But goats, yes. Scientists have implanted the silk-producing gene from spiders into goats. When the goats lactate, their milk contains silk, which can be harvested, dried, and spun into fibres.
And it's a nightmare if you've ever been caught in a goat web. I've been there for days sometimes.
So there's a lot you can get out of goat. You can get cheese, you can get wool, you can get sex, you can get where that came from. Anyway, basically, they keep giving goats.
Just put the back legs in your wellies.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is several insects do spin webs, of which the best known are the web spinners. Spiders, however, are not insects. And finally, the scores, which are as baffling as always. It's fascinating, it's remarkable, it's wonderful, it's exciting. In last place, despite an extraordinary performance and remarkable knowledge in many areas, I'm afraid it's Sue Perkins with -17. A highly creditable third place with -6, Ross Noble. But surely putting himself in contention for a Nobel Prize sometime in the next few years, on +2, Alan Davis. And it can come as no surprise that the mop top from Oldham is our winner. On +5, it's Professor Brian Cox. It only remains for me to thank Brian, Sue, Ross and Alan, and to leave you with this observation from Will Rogers. An ignorant person is one who doesn't know what you have only just found out. Good night.
The complete first series of QI, including the original pilot episode, is available now on BBC DVD. Well, next on BBC Two, it's back to Spitfire Night for a drama documentary. First Light tells the story of the brave pilots in the Battle of Britain.